Hi and welcome. This is Homebody Rundown and I'm HR. This is a video of some of the meals and desserts I made for my family in April, mostly vegetarian, cooking for my husband, myself, and 2 or 3 of our kids who are older. This is not a recipe channel. If there is a recipe available online, I will link it in the description, but hopefully some of our meals can give you ideas or inspirations. Starting with some prep, rinsing these lentils so I can get them cooked and have them available for the week. Also roasting garlic. I buy this already peeled garlic from Whole Foods. Each 6-ounce bag is about $4, which is totally worth it to avoid peeling garlic. I just put it in this glass oven-safe baking dish, add olive oil, put the lid on, and bake in the oven. Making some black tea while I wait on the garlic. I'll make it extra strong in this measuring cup, and then I pour it into a jar with more water for iced tea. Garlic is done, it smells amazing, and I've let it cool down for a few minutes. Be careful of steam. I'm using the food processor to chop the garlic so it'll be ready to go when I get it out of the freezer. I am putting small spoonfuls into these freezer-safe glass jars, also using freezer-safe Ball brand lids. I'm using a Snapware container for the garlic I want to keep in the refrigerator. It really helps with the smell to have that seal. Making dinner tonight on the grill outside. We'll slice these Beyond Sausage hot Italian style links using salt, oil, and lemon pepper to season the frozen green beans that I've mostly defrosted, added adobo seasoning and oil and salt to the potatoes. Making a sauce for the sausage and potatoes. I'm thinking the closest thing would be Thousand Island dressing. It's just yogurt, mayo, ketchup, and relish. It's nice to not have all of these smells in the house. I got a little distracted and forgot to check these early enough, so some of the potatoes and sausage are very well done, but it was still good. Tomorrow I want to cook beans, so I am soaking them overnight in a brine. I got the info for the brine from an America's Test Kitchen cookbook from the library, so I don't have it. If I can find it online, I will link it. First, I rinse and sort them, just looking for rocks or dirt or rotten beans. Making 2 kinds, black beans and red beans. I do set the lids on top, but I don't seal them. It's just in case there's, a bug flying around. I don't want it to get in here overnight. It's the next day. Rinsed the beans and cook them in the Instant Pot with new water. After they've cooled off, I will put some of these right into the freezer to use later. I do label them mostly so I know how old they are. I do not recommend these anchor hocking dishes with a seal. The lids are very, very difficult to get on. I'm setting aside a mix of both beans to use in chili this week, and then making part of the black beans into refried beans. I season them with lime juice, onion powder, garlic powder, and if they need it, some more salt. There is also enough of these that some of them can go in the freezer after they cool down. Having the window open helps with that, and also helps dissipate the smell from cooking beans. It's the next day and I'm making that chili. It's vegetarian, using chipotle peppers and adobo sauce and roasted garlic that I got out of the freezer. Spices include smoked paprika, cumin, oregano, onion powder, and garlic powder if needed. I wasn't sure if I'd add chili powder since I'm adding the chipotle peppers. Adding oil and spices and realizing that these adobo peppers are not chopped, so I had to do that real quick. I should have done it before I froze them. Let the spices toast for a minute or 2. You want to be cautious here if you're sensitive to cooking hot, spicy foods. Adding the garlic and bouillon. This will be the salt for the chili. adding a jar of this seedless tomato sauce. It's very good, and also some onions and peppers that were already cooked and in the refrigerator from another meal. The red beans and black beans are what I made yesterday. After adding water and tasting it, I decided to add in a few more of the chipotle peppers. This was a little bit spicy. It's been simmering for a while, tasted it again, and decided to add lime juice. This is my bowl. I had some cornbread in the freezer that I defrosted and added Greek yogurt. Really good. And even though it was a lot of ingredients, it came together easily since everything was pre-cooked. Did not have a lot of energy for dinner on this night, so it's pretty much just items from the freezer and some instant mashed potatoes. Cooking frozen mushrooms in oil to make a sauce. In the back here is a vegetarian chicken type product that fries up crispy if you use enough oil. The adobo seasoning is for the vegetarian chicken, and the rest is to make a creamy gravy type sauce with the mushrooms. But the kids don't like spinach, so making them peas and got out that leftover cornbread. I was tired, so I did not film making the sauce. I just used olive oil for the fat, flour for a thickener, spices with some water and a little milk. I did add extra pepper. Here's how it turned out, really filling and fairly quick to make. Making baking powder biscuits. I use the KitchenAid mixer for this, but you can cut the shortening in by hand as well. Using both white flour and whole wheat flours. The Betty Crocker cookbook also has an adjustment you can make for drop biscuits, which I do sometimes, but today I flattened the dough and I'm cutting it into squares. I don't mess with circles. This is way easier. I am cutting these right on the cookie sheet, which is not great, but I am not pressing very hard, so no damage was done. Since the KitchenAid is already dirty, I'm going to also make a couple loaves of apple bread. It's the same recipe I use for zucchini bread, I just sub in applesauce. But unlike zucchini bread, everyone in the house will eat apple bread. This is a quick bread, there is no yeast, and I'll use both flours in this as well. Using 2 glass loaf pans. These are Anchor brand and I've had them forever. I did oil the bottom and the sides. The biscuits are done and they turned out really well. I did add a little less flour since I was subbing in some whole wheat flour, and they were not too dry. Apple bread is also done. I did dent the side when I was using my offset spatula to go around the edges before I popped them out of the pans. This was delicious. I should really make this more often. Another day, another dessert. This time it's chocolate chip cookies, but I'm going to try something different and add peanut butter chips. I ordered from Azure Standard to some of the dough. Youngest child does not like peanut butter. I use the KitchenAid mixer for this as well. I like this attachment with the scraper side, although it doesn't always catch everything. Making really good use of the whole wheat flour, replaced 1 cup of white flour with it. Now I'm taking out maybe 2/3 of the dough with just chocolate chips and adding peanut butter chips to the other third, putting this in the refrigerator because nobody else is around to scoop these onto the cookie sheets right now. The next meal is just a weird breakfast type casserole that I made up, but it ended up tasting great, using mostly frozen items, including kale and onions, cooking those with spices including roasted garlic powder and a mushroom umami seasoning from Trader Joe's. While that cooks down, I'm going to make a spice mix I use all the time. It's garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper. I just do about a third of each in a little jar. This does make a lot of spicy dust, so just a heads up. I like this style of lid now that I'm used to it because a lot can pour out at a time, but having this mix saves me the time of taking out all 3 spice jars. The veggies are soft enough now. I'll turn the heat off and add them to the casserole. In the bottom of this dish, I put in a package of shredded frozen hash browns. These have been in the freezer a while and I just needed to use them up. Here are some of the other ingredients. I was originally going to cook vegetarian breakfast sausage to crumble in, but I couldn't find any, so I'm using plant-based pepperonis, sour cream, Greek yogurt, milk, and goat cheese. For the sauce, I am making a roux with oil, butter, and flour, cooking that for a minute, and now using this vegan bouillon cube and water. As it thickened up, I added more water slowly. Then the spice mix I just made up of garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper. It's thickened up quite a bit, added a small amount of milk and whisked that together, turned off the heat before adding sour cream and yogurt. Mixed the pepperoni in with the other ingredients and now pouring the sauce over the top. I think one reason it turned out so well is that I probably made way more sauce than was really necessary. So it was very creamy. This is before it goes in the oven. I've crumbled the goat cheese over the top. After it's baked, it ended up being very pale, and the breakfast sausage would have been much better, but the pepperoni was still really tasty. I don't usually refrigerate chocolate chip cookie dough, so they didn't spread out as much as usual, but they were still very good. Tonight I'm making enchilada rice. It's inspired by an Instant Pot recipe I found online. I will link it in the description, but I already have cooked rice, so I am going to just make this on the stovetop, and of course I'm not following the recipe exactly. This is cilantro that we bought at Trader Joe's. I cleaned and chopped it and put it in the freezer. Cooking the frozen onions and corn for a few minutes with spices and oil before adding roasted red peppers that I already had open in the refrigerator. This is going to come together very fast because I have the rice already cooked. The red beans are also already cooked. Adding a jar of red enchilada sauce plus a little water. Let this simmer for a few minutes and now adding the cilantro. This turned out great. It has a lot of flavor and it's very filling. I added shredded cheese and diced avocado to my bowl. I recently ordered from Azure Standard. They have groceries that you order online and then you meet a truck to pick up your order in person. Anyway, this was the first time I ordered 5-pound blocks of cheese, and I want to get this one processed. I'll leave a little unshredded for snacking, but most of this will go through the food processor. This cheese is Monterey Jack, and it's very mild. I don't know that we'll get it again. It works really well in things like quesadillas, but my husband and I have a poor sense of taste, so we prefer a stronger flavor. This makes a whole lot of shredded cheese. I'll keep one container out to use now, but all the rest will go in the freezer. I shred other white cheeses, so I do make sure to label these. Sometimes it's really nice to make a meal that everyone will eat, which around here is pasta. I'm making homemade mac and cheese using some of the Monterey Jack that I just shredded. This is an Instant Pot recipe. If I can find it online, I'll link it below. I pretty much follow this one exactly because it's an Instant Pot recipe, but I do add garlic powder as well for extra flavor. I also just use milk and cream if I have it instead of evaporated milk. This is also such an easy recipe that it's a good option when you're tired or don't have much time. The pasta cooks for only 4 minutes after it's reached pressure. The Monterey Jack melted really well, but it would have been better if it had some sharp cheddar to mix in with it, but it's mac and cheese, so of course it was still delicious. Decided to make peanut butter pie again. I made one maybe a month ago. I wanted to try a few modifications, including using less graham crackers. I ended up using 1 sleeve. Used a metal measuring cup to help press the mixture into the pan, and then I baked it in the oven for 7 minutes. I'll link the recipe. Another modification I wanted to make was using this Costco brand natural peanut butter. I feel it just has a much stronger peanut flavor, and I thought it would be really good in this. And unlike some natural peanut butters, this one is very easy to stir. Mixing up whipped cream using heavy whipping cream, powdered sugar, and 4-fold vanilla. The KitchenAid does a fantastic job making whipped cream. In the same bowl, I'm making the peanut butter mixture with cream cheese, peanut butter, and powdered sugar. Then I'll add in some of the whipped cream. The pie crust is completely cooled, putting in the peanut butter layer and smoothing that out, and then a layer of whipped cream on top. Next time, I am just going to mix all of the whipped cream in with the peanut butter mixture and not bother with 2 layers. I don't think it'll make a difference to us. This will go in the refrigerator now for a few hours to set up. Tonight's recipe is inspired by a vegetarian tikka masala recipe I'll put in the description. It is a lot of ingredients, but once again, it comes together quickly because a lot of the items are frozen and already cooked, like the beans. Spices include garam masala, paprika, ginger, turmeric, cumin. Salt will be from the bouillon, and pulled some chopped garlic out of the freezer. This is not roasted garlic, and also got out leftover peas to throw in as well. Added olive oil to the pan and frozen chopped onions, garlic, and spices. This has been cooking for a few minutes and smells awesome. Now adding bouillon, tomato paste, strained tomatoes, lentils and chickpeas that have defrosted, and some water, letting it cook for a few more minutes. Forgot that I also had roasted cauliflower in the refrigerator, so putting that in here as well as the leftover peas. The dairy is sour cream and Greek yogurt. I put mine over cooked rice and added a little more sour cream on top. This is Annie's probiotic sour cream, and it is so good. Okay, time to see how this pie turned out. First off, the crust is very dense and was a little challenging to cut through. I think I'll use even less graham crackers next time, but it held together well and it tasted fantastic. We eat a mostly vegetarian diet, and that includes having hummus in the refrigerator pretty much at all times. When my kids were younger and homeschooling took up a lot more of my day, I frequently bought this at the store. Sam's and Costco have really good prices, but now that my kids are almost all grown, I have time to make it from scratch-ish. Sometimes I use chickpeas that I have cooked, and sometimes I just use a jar of chickpeas from the store. I get the Jovial brand. Side note, I was trying to make this in my small food processor or food chopper, and I cannot recommend doing that. This top part got dirty, and it is a pain to clean. Making fried rice on this day, starting with getting the brown rice cooking in the Instant Pot. This does take a little planning ahead because the brown rice takes longer to cook than white rice. defrosted some green beans, and got out these veggie rolls. It comes with sauces that we don't use as a dip, so I'm going to add them to the stir fry today. Diced up baby carrots using diced frozen onions and frozen green peas. I don't add a whole lot of seasoning to fried rice because we have plenty of additional sauces and toppings in the refrigerator, like sambal oelek, peanut sauce, and sesame seeds. What I will use besides the sauce packets is garlic, rice vinegar, sriracha, ginger, toasted sesame oil, and I usually use soy sauce, but today it's Japanese barbecue sauce. They're both very salty. We'll cook the onions and carrots until the carrots are softened, then add the garlic. It needs a little more oil. I'm using avocado oil. Adding the rest of the flavoring ingredients and cooking for a minute before adding the vegetables. Forgot about those little sauce packets, so putting those in as well. Cook this for several minutes and then making space in the center of the pan for the eggs to cook. As usual, one child does not eat fried rice, so making them a fried egg to go with rice and green peas and roasted cashews. The egg is cooked through, so stirring in brown rice from the Instant Pot. I added sambal oelek and sesame seeds to mine, along with a couple veggie rolls. We like this Melinda's Thai sweet chili sauce as a dip for those. Oldest child was home on spring break and he loves homemade pasta sauce. This is vegetarian, but he and my husband really like the plant-based meatballs added to it. I also got roasted garlic from the freezer, and this Julien's garlic bread is from the freezer section at Walmart. Cooking the vegetarian meatballs in olive oil. When they've softened enough, I break them up into smaller pieces. Frozen onions, Italian seasoning mix, and I forgot to get it out earlier, but red pepper flakes. Once the onions are mostly cooked, I'm putting in the garlic, tomato paste, and tomato sauce. This is a very thick sauce. That's what I grew up with, and I prefer it. At this point, I tasted it and decided to add garlic powder and onion powder. It turned out great. We just serve this with spaghetti. I really appreciated having prepped items in the freezer this month and made good use of them, especially the roasted garlic and beans and lentils. I also love having frozen diced onions. All of these things make cook times go a lot faster. I think the biggest overall hit that everyone really liked was the applesauce quick bread. I had put one loaf in the freezer, and as soon as the first one was gone, I got out the frozen one and it was gone in a few days. I'll definitely have to make that again this month. In April, I am planning to experiment with different masa flours to make my own corn tortillas for fish tacos. I plan to film that for a future meals and desserts video. Thanks for watching.